Greetings. Welcome to the AI Files. We are available on the YouTube as a channel as well as on the Apple Podcast. And if you're looking to stay updated on all things artificial intelligence, and particularly if you work in the corporate and want to know what's happening within the corporate and how it impacts enterprises, this is one-stop shop for you. You can learn all about the AI happenings, news launches, as well as the direction and the perspectives. I'm Shadab Hussain. I'm a director of data and AI at Microsoft with over 23 years of experience, and I'm one of the co-hosts. My other co-host today is not available. He is taking a well-deserved break. And incidentally, Jamie is also actually completing 25 years at Microsoft just this week. Yes, so we're going to surprise him. Maybe next time, congratulate him in the comments and let him know. But it's an amazing milestone. And he's my other co-host. He also works at the Microsoft. But this is not an official Microsoft channel. The views and opinions expressed by the co-host are their own and do not represent the views of Microsoft. Let's dive in. This week, let's start with the AI quote of the week. So let me start with what Vice President J.D. Vance told an audience of the world leaders and tech executives at the AI Action Summit, which was recently held in Paris and hosted by the French President Emmanuel Macron to build the international consensus around the technology. And Mr. Vance said, quote, the Trump administration will ensure that the most powerful AI systems are built in the US with American design and manufactured chips. Unquote. The tension was, I think, palpable at the summit because US and UK refused to sign the summit declaration calling for AI's, like ensuring the AI is open, inclusive, transparent, ethical, safe, secure, and trustworthy, taking into account international frameworks for all. The two countries actually held back from signing the communique agreed by the about 60 states. America wants to partner with all of you, he said. But to create that kind of trust, we need international regulatory regimes that foster the creation of AI technology rather than strangle it, unquote. He also warned Europe not to adopt overly precautionary regulations on artificial intelligence as America and the UK refused to join several other countries in signing this declaration to ensure that the technology was safe, secure, and trustworthy. So I think, it's kind of a little bit of a deviation from the past because even though these regulations, the declarations are non-binding, but in the past the US has been actually a signatory of all of them. So this is a departure from the previous years, and this year they have refused to sign it. It also, I think, indicates the geopolitical tension because it's not just about the companies at building the models anymore. It's about the countries who are actually competing now at the world stage. And AI, as I always say, is weaponized. AI is important from the economic point of view, but also from a political and several other perspectives as well. And US just want to make sure that it continues to keep the lead and do not let China exceed or catch up to US. And we have seen because of that, there has been a lot of other restrictions on the hardware, etc. as well. Although DeepSeek was a awakening call, those restrictions haven't worked as well. And the lead between the US and China is actually much less probably than what was initially thought. Anyway, it was a wake-up call. Let's move on. Let's talk about some of the other news as well. OpenAI's board of directors has unanimously rejected billionaire Elon Musk's offer to buy the nonprofit that effectively governs OpenAI. So remember, OpenAI was actually founded as a nonprofit before it transitioned to a capped profit structure in 2019. And the nonprofit is the sole controlling shareholder of the capped profit OpenAI Corporation, which retains formal fiduciary responsibility to the non-profit's charter. Now, OpenAI is now in the process of restructuring, and this time to a traditional for-profit company, specifically a public benefit corporation. And we've seen in the past, a few months ago, they went to the funding round, and that funding was contingent upon becoming a for profit. So it is, I think, within a year or two, they need to actually turn into for profit. And Elon Musk is trying to actually prevent that. He's saying that I'm going to buy this, keep the control of the non-profit charter of the company. And of course, the OpenAI board expectedly has unanimously rejected the offer. And it was said that, quote, OpenAI is not for sale, and the board has unanimously rejected Mr. Musk's latest attempt to disrupt his competition, said one of the executives at OpenAI. Um, any potential reorganization of OpenAI will strengthen our nonprofit and its mission to ensure artificial general intelligence benefits all of humanity. Unquote. In other news, Elon Musk's AI company XAI is said to be in talks to raise $10 billion in a round that would value XAI at $75 billion. Elon Musk says XAI's scary smart Grok 3 chatbot is also on the horizon and will be released on Monday, which is tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. But I think it's interesting. On one hand, Elon Musk is offering to buy the OpenAI, and on the other hand, he's also actually raising. So I think a lot of things happening between XAI, OpenAI, and the AI world. And the other companies also continue to raise the funds. Let's talk about Apple. Apple is partnering with Alibaba to ensure on enhance AI features in China. So remember that in China, the regulatory environment does not allow Apple to use any model AI model at will, and it's a long approval process. So and that approval process becomes easier if they are using some language models which are actually, or Gen AI, which is built locally in the China, and that's why they were looking to partner with some of those companies. Like it could be, for example, Alibaba, or they also evaluated models from Baidu, ByteDance, Tencent, and DeepSeek. And and the decision to collaborate with Alibaba was influenced by the need to navigate China's stringent regulatory environment, which mandates rigorous testing and approval of LLMs before public deployments. Um, this move also come at a critical time for Apple because the company is experiencing 11% decline in sales within the Chinese market, with the revenues dropping to $18.5 billion in the latest quarter. So what's happening is that the lack of advanced AI features in the iPhone is bigger problem in China, because the other companies like Huawei and Xiaomi have rapidly integrated the AI functionalities into their devices, and Apple is actually falling behind. So the gap is even huge in China, um, and that's, to be honest, true in US as well. But in China, that gap is actually much wider. So Apple is trying to rapidly catch up to the AI game in China, and local partnership definitely helps them. Alibaba, on the other hand, is actually doing pretty well. They also have been releasing their own LLMs. Coin 2.5 was recently released. It has been doing pretty well. It does well on the benchmark. I would say that it is not too far behind than the other frontier models from OpenAI and DeepSeek and others. Um, and the company's share has been actually rising over 40% since the beginning of this year. So they're doing pretty well, and they're riding that wave. And I think this partnership will help Apple and Alibaba both. In other news, OpenAI gives the models roadmap. So Sam Altman actually on X, he talks about the direction in the future, how the models will consolidate. So he talks about in a post on X that we hate the model picker as much as you do and want to return to magic unified intelligence. We will next ship GPT 4.5, the model we called Orion internally, as our last non chain of thought model. And in both ChatGPT and our API, we will release GPT-5 as a system that integrates a lot of our technology, including O3. We will no longer ship O3 as a standalone model. So I think it giving a direction to what will happen next. The GPT 4.5 is going to come out, and then I think afterwards GPT-5 will come out. How much that gap, we don't know. But GPT-5 will actually integrate and consolidate everything. So there will be no more O4 or O5. Basically, O3 is the last standalone reasoning model. And after that, everything will be part of the GPT-5. It will have the vision, canvas, search, deep research, voice, all kind of capabilities, multimodal. And the plus subscribers will be able to run GPT-5 at a higher level of intelligence. The free subscribers will also get even unlimited use of the GPT-5, and the pro subscribers will be able to run GPT-5 at even higher level of intelligence. So good news. I think this is good. This will help simplify, because sometimes the too many models can actually create the confusion as well. So I think this is a good news, and hopefully this will actually help simplify all the offerings. Okay, now let's talk about some of the launches. Perplexity has become the latest AI company to release an in-depth research tool with a new feature on Friday. And this is essentially called deep research, which is, yeah, I know it is same as what OpenAI calls, same as what actually Google call it. So all of them have the same name, deep research. To create a report, Perplexity said the deep research iteratively searches, reads, documents, and reasons about what to do next, refining its research plan as it learns more about the subject areas, supposedly similar to how a human might research a new topic. So, I think we have seen this. This is a typical feature that has been launched by OpenAI and Gemini also earlier. In fact, I mean, Google, to be honest, did not get the credit. They actually launched it first, but OpenAI really got some more news. I think it was launched about a couple of weeks ago, and it's kind of an agent which actually does the research, and it can do kind of a pro level research. You tell them, for example, okay, tell me about the market of, for example, the mobile devices, and then it will do all the research. It will give you all the citation. It will iteratively ideate on it. It will challenge its own, and it will try to weed out the irrelevant, or incorrect information out there. It will create a report, and generally this report could take people like hours and days, and maybe even weeks. So this will be really good. OpenAI's deep research actually will take longer, typically about 10 minutes to 15 minutes, kind of. But the Perplexity claims that this will be actually just a couple of maybe 2 to 4 minutes kind of time it will take to actually create a report, and then you can export it as a PDF, etc. as well. Um, they said, Perplexity said that the deep research tool scored 21.1% on the test, which is the humanities last exam, actually, beating most other models like Gemini Thinking, Grok 2, and OpenAI's GPT-4o. All of them are like in single digit, like 6.6%, 3%, 4%, like that. And Perplexity said that their own deep research tool scored 21%. But it doesn't quite match up to OpenAI's deep research agent score, which is about 26.6%, and I think that was the highest. Now, you can actually, the thing is that, however, the Perplexity offered the deep research as a completely free tool. It is, you don't need to have a like a separate pro subscription or something. But in the case of OpenAI, it is not actually freely available, openly available to everyone. Currently you need a $200 per month pro subscription to use the deep research. Um, and the non-subscriber of the Perplexity, they actually get unspecified but limited number of queries per day. There is some limit, there is some cap, but the paying subscribers get unlimited queries when they're using the deep research with Perplexity. So I think this is a good tool. I'm actually excitedly looking. I don't have a Perplexity subscription, but I'm excitedly looking forward to using these tools. And I'll wait for when ChatGPT comes out and they make that available to the Plus subscriber as well. Would definitely want to see some good research reports coming out from that tool. I do have some markets that I want to research about. I want to research about some topics, etc. as well. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about some of the Azure and Microsoft launches and the news as well. So this week, actually, there was an announcement regarding the availability of provision throughput units for which is called managed deployment for fine-tuned GPT-4o and GPT-4o mini on reserved instances. So actually what happens is that there is a fine-tuning already available on these models. However, that's more like a pay-as-you-go. So if an enterprise needs kind of a more assured bandwidth and throughput, it wasn't possible for them. But with this offering, which is a completely new offering, provision throughput units for the managed deployment, now this actually allows the enterprises to have kind of a reserved capacity for the fine-tuned models. It's a beginning. It is available right now in only North Central US and Switzerland West. Uh, but I'm sure this will expand to other regions as well. Throughput is expected roughly about same as you get for the base model, the non-fine-tuned model, and the cost is also about same, $260 per PTU. And I think there are some minimum PTUs that you need to buy for fine-tune as well, just like in the case of the base models as well. Okay. All right, let's talk about AI company of the week. And this week, I want to actually talk about Latent Labs. So, Latent Labs is an AI driven biotech company or tech bio company, as many people call it, focused on making biology programmable through the development of generative AI models to create new antibodies, optimizing existing enzymes, and advancing genetic engineering. It was founded by Dr. Simon Cole, a former senior research scientist at DeepMind. He was actually a key contributor to the Nobel Prize winning AlphaFold 2 project. Remember the one that was given to Demis Hassabis and I think one more person. They shared actually the Nobel Prize in the that was I'm forgetting actually. I believe it was in chemistry. If I'm not wrong. And this company actually, so Dr. Simon Cole was actually a key contributor to that project, AlphaFold 2, and this company aims to revolutionize drug discovery and protein design. Now there are other companies also. In fact, Google DeepMind also has collaborated. In fact, Google has its own another venture called Isomorphic Lab, and most often these tech companies they are actually collaborating with a specific pharma company or a biotech company. But in this case, Latent Labs is actually trying to provide it as a service. So not specifically tying with just one company, but they will provide it as a platform for the other companies to make use of. And in this month, they have actually just emerged from the stealth mode, and they have announced a total of $15 million in funding. This is Series A, the first one, and it has multiple the venture capitalists, of course, and but also investment from like Google chief scientist Jeff Dean, Cohere founder Aidan Gomez, and 11 Labs founder Matty Staniszewski. Excuse me. They are based out of San Francisco, of course, and they're also in London. And they're looking to create new drugs and through the protein design, etc. So looking forward to it. I hope they become successful and able to find the new treatments and personalized medicine that would actually help the humanity. Let's talk about the word of the week. Since we talked about the fine tuning available on the provision throughput, let me explain what the provision throughput is. So provision throughput is a service, it represents a reserved model processing capacity, and it is offered by Microsoft Azure for specific models. Particularly, it started with the Azure OpenAI. It is also available in the Google Cloud. They call it Generative AI Scale Unit (GSUs), and it is available within the Vertex AI. It and I think Amazon Bedrock also offers something similar, which is called provision throughput. And really, what provision throughput is, it is a reserved capacity. Um, it would be, I think, probably wrong to say that it is a dedicated capacity because it may not be dedicated hardware, but it kind of provision. That's why the name provision throughput indicates that there is a certain amount of assurance that you get, and you provision that capacity. Now, since you're provisioning that capacity, you actually pay upfront. You pay for the entire reservation, which could be monthly or yearly. In general, that is what the reservation model is. Recently, Azure also started permitting the provision throughput on the hourly basis, but the hourly basis is very costly. So, hourly basis provision throughput is really just for companies to test how that capacity would look like, right? So that they can plan it, they can test it, and they can plan, they can do some calculation and see how good it is compared to the paygo. Paygo, of course, can be you're really competing against others, right, in a pool of capacity. But provision throughput kind of gives you a pretty decent, consistent, and higher throughput capacity. The thing about provision throughput is it is costly, right? So let's say, because there are also some minimum capacity that you need to buy, and it has come down. Earlier it used to be, I think, 100 PTUs. So a typical GPT-4o model would cost about, let's say, 2600 uh, $26,000 for 100 PTUs at the rate of $260 per PTU. But I think that minimum has also come down. Now you can do for 50. In some cases, some models are available at even 15 only. And there's also a minimum increment in which you need to actually expand it. So you can buy more, but you have to buy minimum incremental capacity. So, and one of the thing about this is that not only you get pretty good throughput, so if you have a production workload, it is advised that you use the provision throughput. You don't use a paygo, because paygo can be really inconsistent sometimes, right? It does work, of course, but it can be inconsistent. If you really want to give a better experience to your customer and the application using it, go for the provision throughput. It is worth it. And also, if you use it well, let's say if you plan your workload effectively, and because this capacity is available for you whole 24 hours. So if you plan the workload only for a few hours in a day, you're actually leaving a lot on the table. So you're not really using it effectively. However, if your workload allows you to use it pretty much throughout the day, or I would say somewhere is a sweet spot where, if you're using it, let's say anywhere between 16 to 20 hours, I think that kind of hits the sweet spot. You actually end up saving because you are getting better throughput at a fixed price, so you can process a lot more requests at much faster rate, better experience, and that would actually turn out cheaper than the paygo. So I personally have some experience working with some of my customers on this. So if you design it well, it actually works out cheaper. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about trivia of the week. This week, I'm going to talk about Anthropic Economic Index. So, it is an initiative which is aimed at understanding AI's effects on labor markets and the economy over time. And the index has actually also launched an initial report which provides first of its kind data and analysis based on millions of anonymized conversations on Claude.ai. And it reveals the clearest picture of how the AI is being incorporated into the real world tasks across the modern economy. What they've done is essentially they have looked at all these queries, not not across all kind of models. I think they've limited it to the pro and free version. I believe they have avoided the enterprise and the team version, and they've looked at all the queries that people are making to Claude, and then they have classified those as a task, and then those tasks then get classified into the roles, or the you can say the jobs, right? And that's how they're actually calculating that approximately how people are using their AI and for what kind of industry and the role they're using it. So, and they found some, I would say to an extent expected discovery, and while on the other hand there are some new insights that emerge. So, and they have open sourced this data set as well for the analysis so that other researchers can also build upon and extend the findings. And they have invited policy experts and economists and other researchers to provide the input on the index. The main finding from this economic index, the first paper is The usage is concentrated in software development and technical writing tasks. Over one third of occupations, roughly about 36%, see AI used in at least a quarter of their associated tasks. And about 4% of occupations use it across three quarters of their associated tasks. So about 40%, 4% of occupation, they're actually heavily, heavily using it. And they can actually use like for three quarters of their task. While majority of them, like 36% bucket, sees it for one quarter of their associated tasks. The tasks and occupations are the by far the largest adoption of AI are in the computer and mathematical category, which in large part covers software engineering roles. So 37.2% of queries sent to Claude were in this category, covering tasks like software modification, code debugging, and network troubleshooting. The second largest category was arts, design, sports, entertainment, and media, which is like about 10.3% of the total queries they've received. It mainly reflects people using Claude for various kinds of writing and editing. And unsurprisingly, occupations involving a high degree of physical labor, such as those in farming, fishing, and forestry, they were least represented, just about 0.1% of the queries. So AI use actually leans more towards the augmentation, 57% almost, where AI collaborates with and enhances human capabilities. Compared to the automation, which is about 43% of the queries, there are only two categories, augmentation and automation. So our automation is about 43% of all those queries, where AI directly performs tasks, right? So it's kind of like replaces. But most of the query, like about 57%, they are actually more towards the augmentation. AI. So what you can also say is that okay, AI was not being used to replace people doing tasks, but instead worked with them, engaging in tasks like validation, learning, like helping the user acquire new knowledge and skills, or the task iteration, for example, helping the user brainstorm, otherwise doing repeated generative tasks. AI use is also more prevalent for tasks associated with mid to high wage occupation, like computer programmers and data scientists, but is lower for both the lowest and the highest paid roles. So, for example, it's right in the middle that the occupation like computer programmers, data scientists, they are actually benefiting most from it. In the other words, they're also at the risk because their job can be done a lot better by the AI. On the other hand, the highest paid roles like physicians, etc., they were actually among the lowest using roles today, as far as the cloud perspective is concerned. And similarly for the lowest wage position like restaurant workers, etc., and where there's more physical and manual labor involved. So overall, if you see the occupational skills where it is more predominant to use AI is like cognitive skills like reading comprehension, writing, critical thinking. They show high presence in AI conversation. While physical skills and managerial skills like negotiation, they show minimal presence. In terms of the models, the different AI models show specialization and usage pattern. For example, Claude 3.5 Sonnet new is preferred for coding and technical tasks, while Claude 3 Opus is more used for creative writing and educational content development. There are some caveats though, okay? So just be mindful. For example, they have put the list of caveats, which are like they don't know, Anthropic doesn't know if the task was completing a task for work or it was just for a personal experimentation purpose. Like, for example, somebody is doing some editing advice. Is it for something at work or is it just like novel they're writing as a hobby? Or um, they also are not sure whether the for example, Claude can't generate images, right? So creative uses will not be referenced in this data. And given that Claude is advertised for use as a state of the art coding model, it was expected that the coding will be overrepresented as a use case, right? So just remember, because we talked about almost 37% of use in those fields. They have also analyzed the data from the free and the pro plans and not from the API team or enterprise users. And to be honest, a lot of enterprise use is actually through the API team and enterprise user base. So we still can't say effectively whether it is really being done at scale at the enterprise level, or is it still experimentative and it's still at the personal level. So these are some of the findings from this economic index. I think this is a good initiative that Anthropic has taken. Hopefully, we will get more iterations of it, and then we'll see in the future how that turns out. With that, I think we're wrapping it today. Check it out, this episode, share, like, and subscribe, and talk with you all soon. Bye bye.